Hi friends, welcome back. Today we are going to read the next chapter in Charlotte's Web. In our last chapter we finally met Charlotte. Her and Wilbur introduced themselves to each other. Wilbur's feeling a little apprehensive about Charlotte and not so sure about his friendship with her at the moment. He was a little put off by her diet, what she eats, but we'll see that they overcome that difference as the story continues. I couldn't help but think about the myth that we read when we were reading mythology, the story of Arachne, as Charlotte was talking about the history of spiders and weaving a web. I don't know if any of you were thinking about that yesterday too, but I certainly was as we were reading the story. Today's chapter, chapter 6, is called Summer Days. The early summer days on a farm are the happiest and fairest days of the year. Lilacs bloom and make the air sweet and then fade. Apple blossoms come with the lilacs, and then the bees visit among the apple trees. The days grow warm and soft, school ends, and children have time to play and to fish for trouts in the brook. Avery often brought a trout home in his pocket, warm and stiff and ready to be fried for supper. Remember Avery? That's Fern's brother. Now that school was over, Fern visited the barn almost every day to sit quietly on her stool. The animals treated her as an equal. The sheep laid calmly at her feet. Around the 1st of July, the workhorses were hitched to the mowing machine, and Mr. Zuckerman climbed into the seat and drove onto the field. All morning you can hear the rattle of the machine as it went round and round, while the tall grass fell down behind the cutter bar in long green swaths. The next day, if there was no thunder shower, all hands would help rake and pitch and load, and the hay would be hauled to the barn in the high hay wagon, with Fern and Avery riding on the top. The hay would be hoisted, sweet and warm, into the big loft, until the whole barn seemed like a wonderful bed of timothy and clover. It was fine to jump in and perfect to hide in, and sometimes Avery would find a little grass snake in the hay and add it to the other things in his pocket. Oof! I'm so glad I'm not his mama doing his laundry. I would not want to find a snake in somebody's pocket. Early summer days are a jubilee time for birds, in the fields, around the house, in the barn, in the woods, and in the swamp. Everywhere love and songs and nests and eggs. From the edge of the woods, the white-throated sparrow would call, "Oh, Peabody, oh, Peabody, Peabody," on an apple bough. The phoebe teeters, wags its tail, and says, "Phoebe, Phoebe." The song sparrow, who knows how brief and lovely life is, says, "Sweet, sweet, sweet interlude, sweet, sweet, sweet interlude." And if you enter the barn, the swallows swoop down from their nests and scold. "Chicky, chicky," they say. Noisy birds, aren't they? In the early summer, there is plenty of things for a child to eat and drink and suck and chew. Dandelion stems are full of milk. Clover heads are loaded with nectar. The fridge air is full of ice-cold drinks. And everywhere you look is life. Even the little ball of spit on the weed stalk, if you poke it apart, has a green worm inside. And on the underside of the leaf of the potato vine are bright orange eggs of the potato bug. It was on a day in early summer that the goose's eggs hatched. This was an important event in the barn cellar. Fern was there, sitting on her stool when it happened. Except for the goose herself, Charlotte was the first to know that the goslings had arrived. The goose knew a day in advance that they were coming. She could hear their weak voices calling from inside the egg. She knew that they were desperately cramped position inside the shell and were most anxious to break through and get out. So she sat quite still and talked less than usual. When the first gosling poked its gray-green head through the goose's feathers and looked around, Charlotte spied it first and made the announcement. "I'm sure," she said, "that every one of us here will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on part of our friend the goose, she now has something to show for it. The goslings have arrived. May I offer my sincere congratulations?" "Thank you, thank you, thank you," said the goose, nodding and bowing shamelessly. "Thank you," said the gander. "Congratulations," shouted Wilbur. "How many goslings are there? I can only see one." "There are 7," said the goose. "Fine," said Charlotte. 7 is a lucky number." "Luck had nothing to do with this," said the goose. "It's good management and hard work." At this point, Templeton showed his nose from a hiding place under Wilbur's trowel. He glanced at Fern, and then cautiously crept towards the goose, keeping close to the wall. Everyone watched him, for he was not well liked and not trusted. "Look," he began in his sharp voice, "you say you have 7 goslings. There were 8 eggs. What happened to the other egg? Why didn't it hatch?" "It's a dud, I guess," said the goose. "What are you going to do with it?" continued Templeton, his little round beady eyes fixed on the goose. "You can have it," said the goose. "Roll it away and add it to that nasty collection of yours." Templeton had a habit of picking up unusual objects around the farm and storing them in his home. He saved everything. Certainly, said the gander. "You may have the egg, but I'll tell you one thing, Templeton. If I ever catch you poking your ugly nose around our goslings, I'll give you the worst pounding a rat ever took." And the gander opened his strong wings and beat the air with them to show his power. He was strong and brave, but the truth is, both the goose and the gander were worried about Templeton, and with good reason. Rats had no morals, no conscience, no scruples, no consideration, no decency, no milk of rodent kindness, no compunctures, no higher feelings, no friendliness, no nothing. He would kill a gosling if he could get away with it, and the goose knew that. Everybody knew that. With her broad bill, the goose pushed the unhatched egg out of the nest, and the entire company watched in disgust while the rat rolled it away. Even Wilbur, who could eat almost anything, was appalled. "Imagine wanting a junky old rotten egg," he muttered. "A rat is a rat," said Charlotte. She laughed a tinkling little laugh. "But my friends, if that ancient egg ever breaks, this barn will be untenable." "What's that mean?" asked Wilbur. "It means nobody will be able to live on account of the smell. A rotten egg is a regular stink bomb." "I won't break it," snarled Templeton. "I know what I'm doing. I handle stuff like this all the time." He disappeared into his tunnel, pushing the goose egg in front of him. He pushed and nudged until he succeeded in rolling it to his lair under the trowel. That afternoon the wind had died down and the barnyard was quiet and warm. The gray goose led her 7 goslings off the nest and out into the world. Mr. Zuckerman spied them when he came with Wilbur's supper. "Well, hello there," he said, smiling all over. "Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 baby geese. Now, isn't that lovely?" So we saw a little bit more of Templeton today. And he's not trusted among the other animals. And they must have good reason for not trusting him. The reputation of a rat isn't necessarily a good one. You had no problem eating Wilbur's breakfast for him in the other chapter. He is a bit sneaky with all his tunnels underneath the farm that he could sneak from one place to the other. Apparently he collects things. I'm guessing he doesn't collect baseball cards or anything. He just takes what he wants to and collects it. What Charlotte says, though, that egg can be a regular stink bomb, is probably a bit of foreshadowing, a little hint on the author's part, warning us that at some point that egg is going to be a problem. And here's just the author's kind of giving us a hint there, a little foreshadowing of what's to come in the future of this book. So at this point, we have a pretty decent handle on our main characters. We have Fern and Wilbur and Charlotte. And we're starting to see more of Templeton too, because he's going to continue to show up in this story. Right now, he's not painted in the best light. We'll have to see what happens as the story continues. How does the author portray him as we keep going? Now, friends, thank you for joining me today. And I hope you'll come back tomorrow so we can read Chapter 7. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.